Hello there, Star Wars fans, and welcome back to another RebelScum.com video. And today we are doing a special interview with our new special guest, Mr. Tait Fletcher.
What's up, Rebel Scum?
The heavy Mandalorian himself, Paz Vizsla, the one and only. I mean, Paz Vizsla should totally be Mandalore. He definitely had Din on the ropes there. I mean, honestly, he kind of won that fight. I think Din did him a little dirty there. He just went down and then, all right, got back up and then just got around you. Like, that wasn't cool. That wasn't cool. What was that fight like?
Well, that fight was done by a fellow that doubled me that went through that. And so I wasn't there. I wasn't present for that fight.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, but you were still in that episode.
I was.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Book of Boba Fett and The Mandalorian. Tell us, how did you get the role of the heavy infantry Mando? Was it him or was it
Alpha Trawler?
Alpha Trawler first.
Started off with Alpha Trawler, right? It's just like anything else. You know, you get an audition and you go in and you prepare for it, and then you never really know who's going to be in the room, but there's always there's another group of people there generally, and then these guys are like the usual suspects that I see in the room for guys that are big and that are action actors and that can do the bit. So there's a handful of guys that say hello to everybody and go and do the thing, and I come on. It's like shortly after, maybe the next day or something, I got a call and they said they really like you for that part. I said, cool, man. And so that's good, because you go through 100 of those, and you got to change the way you feel about like what you consider failure, I guess, because that's what it is. You're constantly, it could easily be you're not enough or whatever, but for whatever the reason is, you don't get whatever the role is. And so I just always view it as practice, as I have the ability to be able to get in the room. And that's all I want. I just want to be able to be in the room. And maybe I won't be right for this, but maybe I'll be right for the next thing. So I kind of try to take that attitude. And so when I got the call that I got it, I was shocked and happy. And I was like, cool. Don't know what project it is. Don't know anything about any of that. And then I got a call another day later or 2 days later, and they said, hey, Favreau saw your audition. And I was like, Favreau saw my audition? I was so stoked. And I was like, that just seemed unreal, And they go, he liked you for this other part. And I go, okay, cool. So I figured I lost the first job and I'll do this other job and whatever, And then I go out to Legacy Effects and they start just measuring me in this little room and like measuring my thumb and my wrist to my pinky, like strange measuring, like all this stuff. And I have no idea what it is. And I don't know that they really know exactly what it is either. But, and then I see a Boba Fett helmet, all matte black, and I was like, "Oh man!" I go, "Am I Boba Fett right now? What's going on?" And so I still didn't have any kind of scope to it until weeks later, after the costume starts to get built out. And then I talked to Favreau, and then I talked to. I had a lot of meetings because I talked to a linguist that, made up a whole language for George Lucas and that we opened with Alpha Trawler. And so I'd kind of had a lot of different meetings with production until then. And these two characters started to kind of come to life for me a little bit more. And as this came out, and then John says, he's like, I've got this character that's coming back from Clone Wars and I really want to do it myself, but I can't. And I want you to do this for me. And I was like, that'd be awesome. And so that's kind of how it all began. With Paz Vizsla, and then it's been a trip. It's just been a trip to be inside, the thing that when I'm 9 years old and I'm standing outside, the corner of State Theater in Petoskey, Michigan or whatever, and Star Wars is, it's like, this bananas, man. It's crazy to be in a Star Wars show, right? And then when this opened up, the crazy thing was it opened up all of Disney Plus, right? It opened up the whole streaming, and so then I was in a fight with my lady at the time, and my phone's blowing up. The fight's over in 15 minutes because I just don't have the stamina to argue too long. And it's Monday night, and I didn't know, but they've aired the 90-second trailer for Mandalorian to expose Disney Plus the world on the football game, on Monday Night Football. And so I'm halftime at the Super Bowl or something like that, right? Monday Night Football show. I don't know.
It would have been a Sunday if it was Super Bowl. I don't remember exactly when they first debuted it, but yeah.
It was at the halftime of that game, and then like 60, I get all these messages, and they're like, "We just saw you," and that it was like, "Whoa, this is." It's weird to know when you're inside of a thing. Mm-hmm. It's weird to know what the thing is. I've done a lot of crazy. It's like from bodyguarding people. It seems like wow, there's this crazy, it looks like a certain thing from over here. But to be inside it, it's just what you're doing. And so it's like to get those little subtle references where you're like, wow, it's a trip. And being in the film business in its own right is a trip in that way, because you're kind of, you know, I go to a movie, I watch The Equalizer with my mom, because it's like my face is going to be huge on this. It's like this big scene, and so stoked just to sit next to her for it, right? But what dawned on me then is that, like, this is present for her. This is occurring right now, which is my history, which is a year ago we did this, right?
Right.
And so it's this weird kind of mixing of realities that you kind of live in when you're in the traveling carnival that is the film business, you know? Yeah. But anyway, that's how the characters came up.
So how did applying for Star Wars come up for you? Was it just something your agent was like, hey, you know,
no,
this could
agents
happen?
haven't done anything for me in my life.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know anybody that agents have done anything for, really. I just don't know that story. My story is more like the stunt community that I came up with, the action business community, second unit directors. Those guys have been my agents. Those guys have been, and it's word of mouth. In the action business, it's like people that are capable for the bit know other people that are, and then it's word of mouth. And that's kind of, I think, how my name got thrown into this, was that our stunt coordinator that I didn't know asked for guys that were that could do these parts and put my name in. And then there I am with the usual suspects. Like, that's kind of how it goes a lot of the time. So it's like, in a lot of ways, you know, you're shaking your own tree. I mean, to try to get a part. And everybody thinks that. They go, oh, if I had the right agent, if I had the right man, there's not that thing. All there is diligent footsteps, one after the next. Be kind to people when you're on set. Be functional for the job. Don't overpromise what you can do. You know, undersell and overdeliver. It's all things that we know. That is like the slow, steady way. Everybody wants a fast buck, you know? And it's like, you got to just make that slow quarter. Just take your steps, make sure you're sure-footed, and the right things will come up, you know? And I think the question gets asked, like, how these parts come up or this or that, because it's almost like, if somebody wants to do that, you're like, how could I contrive that for myself? How could I make that occur? And I don't know that answer. I wish I could give somebody a formulaic answer to that. But I think the thing is that you throw yourself into something that you love, and you become an expert or masterful in some way at that thing, and things come up around that. You become a useful, purposeful thing that somebody goes, hey, man, that person is capable in this way. And I think it's like that. It's like staying the course. Everybody talks about 1,000,001 odds no matter what they talk about, right? It's like, there's only so many people. Yeah, it's because everybody is a baby. Everybody quits at a certain point. And that you can count on. You can count on people quitting. And if you're tough and resilient and you're really in love with the thing, then that's the thing. Do you want to be there for the lights, or do you like the work? Do I want to, I used to fight for a living, and it's like a lot of guys look at that and they go, man, the lights, the fans, I like that. I want to have that. They don't understand what it's like to be in the gym every day, whether you got broken ribs or broken toes or a staph infection or whatever it is, and you're there every day. And it's dark and it's crummy and it's cold and it's not, and you got to love that. If you don't love that drudgery and that pain and that camaraderie that comes with suffering with others, then that's probably not for you, But if you do, I would suggest that you can't be denied. We shortstop ourselves often, but if you get on your own side and you put yourself fully into a thing, I don't ever see anybody losing. It's always when they take their foot off the gas, they go, oh, maybe not, or somebody gets them off their square. You'll have a lot of loved ones, a lot of people close to you in your life that will be like, you know what, you can have just one donut. You know what, you can just skip this one day. Those people are not your friends. They might be, but they don't have your best interests in mind, right? And so it's like to curate yourself. It's like people are like, what does it take to get here or there or whatever? It's like, man, it's the whole nut. It's like because at the end of the day, if you get into a place that you're like, oh, I covet that spot, I'd like to be there. What did you give to get there? And who's left when you're at the podium, right? And so I think in the way that we get there is really important, that we build slowly, strongly, and let it unfold. This has been a mystery to me. That's why it's so magical to me, because this is all so unexpected. Like, man, who'd have thought this could happen for a kid from Michigan,
And how did that feel? What was the reaction when you got that call of, hey, do you want to come in and do Star Wars? Were you just, did it take you back to that kid in Michigan and you just get excited? Did a light just go off?
I get really, I want to be real methodical then, because I don't want to bring a lot of emotion into whatever it is, because that can also throw me off my square. And it's like, I want to be able to go, okay, am I able to arguably deliver to them to the best degree that they deserve, right? Is there somebody better for the job than me? And I consider things like that, and I look into it, and then I go, you know, because whether I'm a cashier at your store or whatever it is, it's like my job is, how do I make the whole thing better? If I'm not the right person for the job, my goal is to make the whole thing. It's not to make me better. If I'm a part of a thing, I want to make that thing. That's the baby that we're carrying across the finish line. And so I think to whatever it is to support that is what you've got to position yourself to become. You know, that's kind of the agreement that you have in that way.
So you've been pretty much fighting your whole life. You started out as a career fighter. Is that what led you to stunts and acting today? Or like in the sense of you were fighting, you were in the middle of your career, and some guy just kind of saw you out in the crowd, was like, you know what, I think that guy will be perfect for pictures, you know, let's see that, let's get that guy right there.
My story is like the Megan Fox story, right?
Sure.
That girl,
like you know,
the director likes.
You know what, that guy could play a really good henchman or a really good bad guy to really size up our protagonist.
I don't know what they think. You know what I mean? I can just walk in the room and be Tait. And so whatever they think, you know, this guy, Darren Prescott, he told me, I would go into these auditions, I go, geez, man, I don't know what they're looking for. He goes, Tait, they don't know what they're looking for. These are a room of so-called creative people that have no idea what they're looking for. They can't imagine you with a beard, or if you don't have one, they can't imagine you without one if you got one. It's people like that. And so just go in there and give them you. Because that's the only thing you've got to give anyway. And that whole thing about like, how do I be authentically me on film? Then that becomes the trick, because people put on faces when they're watched, right? And the camera shows. And so there's all that. They go, you know, it's a trip. The more I'm in it, the deeper the skill set becomes, the more admiration I have for it all. You know, it's wild. Yeah.
So shifting over to working on set on Star Wars. What is perhaps your favorite memory from working on set for The Mandalorian or even the Book of Boba Fett?
Man, I don't. You know, you're working with heroes, right? It's like, for me, it's like everybody else that's there is so special. You know, there's this fantastic bevy of directors, this consortium of like bangers in the system. They're just the top of the field. And then there's Favreau that's directing directors, right? And not in like an overarching way, but like he's in this collaborative, communicative effort of discussion at these high levels. And so I'm sitting there, I'm in a master class just watching what's in front of me all the time. That, let alone the technology or whatever, but the human interaction that goes on to make that film, you know, and the excellence that's on that film, that's Favreau. Like that comes down from him. Like I worked on Avengers and he directed that. And it was the same way on that show. And that was a long time ago. But I remember from that show that they're like, this is the greatest show ever. Because some shows there'll be bosses in different groups or whatever that'll be harsh or, you know, screamers, right? That type. To think that that's how you can get a good result from a team is by that behavior. And they go, not here, man. They go, anybody's out of line, anybody's loud, anybody's crummy to anybody else. Hey, man, thanks a lot for coming. We don't need any more this week. We'll call you if we do. And you'll never hear from them again. And it's just like, that's what John does downstream. It's just like everybody's cool, man. And everybody's working there to get the baby across the finish line. And he's there in the true leadership fashion of like, what assets do you all need as a team to make this happen? And here's maybe other ways that you could look at this, you know? And as a creator, to have guys like him and Filoni that are there and like accessible and paying really direct attention, it's amazing. That's got to be the best part, is that communication. That's what falls short a lot, right? It's communication. Whether it's in the relationships with your girlfriend, your mom, your boss, whomever, it's like communication is like, it's not easy. Humans, we don't grow up speaking, right? We mumble and make noise at each other, and we're hungry, and we don't have language. And even as adults, you can still see people communicating that way, right? But high levels of communication, now that's a special thing, and that's different. And I think that you can demand that. And what Jon Favreau has shown is that you can do that on a set. You can do that in an ecosystem and create that, you know, and which is really hopeful. Because then you can do that in your you can do that wherever, right? And you can go, okay, where could I get better, instead of like looking at where everything else could be better. How can I cultivate and self-develop? And that's kind of like the feeling that you get just being on the show. I mean, it's like, it's stuff that doesn't look like Star Wars, right? It's like, what are the benefits of that? I mean, there's the wallpaper and this and that, and then there's like, what are the real nutritive aspects that are there also? You know, it's all of it. Yeah, I couldn't name a thing. I could talk about it for hours.
So, is this the first action figure you have of yourself? So we have here the heavy Mandalorian, Paz Vizsla.
Yeah, I think so.
The very first Paz Vizsla, in fact. Is that, were there any action figures from your fighting days, or is this Star Wars figure right here the first one?
They barely had email in my fighting days.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is it. I think the first thing I saw was maybe the Funko Pop. Or no, is the Black Series. And that, yeah.
So
but it's a trip. It's wild. It's a wild thing, you know?
What do you think young Tait from Michigan back in the day would say if he knew, looking forward in life, he was going to have his own Star Wars character?
It seems like such not a possibility. It's an odd thing, but
surreal.
There wasn't a hope that could be a possibility. That wasn't anywhere. There's nobody that I saw. There's nothing to emulate. There's not that. Yeah, that would have been like how to create air or something. It's like it's just like a thing I couldn't.
It's indescribable.
Yeah, man. Yeah, what a trip.
Well, Tait, thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Guys, make sure you are subscribed with notifications turned on to our rebelscum.com YouTube channel. That way you don't miss awesome interviews like this one with my special guest, Mr. Tait Fletcher. And you can catch him in all kinds of awesome other things, from series to blockbusters like The Equalizer, which was mentioned earlier, Jurassic World, he was in that, which is, I mean, crazy. The guy's been all over the place doing all kinds of stuff. Odds are, if it's big, you've seen it, show or movie, he's probably in it. So check it out. He's worth a look up. Thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Thank you, man.
Go to rebelscum.com every single day for all kinds of new posts, whether it's news, videos, or articles. There's something posted every single day here on the website. And make sure you go to rebelscumshop.com for all kinds of awesome exclusive swag and merch.
And remember, Rebel Scum, you should always, always be suspicious of the Empire.
Maybe. We'll see you guys later. We'll see you another time. May the Force be with all of you, you Rebel Scum.